So I'm a COVID conscious YouTuber, and I think that that kind of hurts the channel sometimes. I think that people don't like being reminded of what's going on with the whole situation. People want to believe the CDC when they say that they are like, the emergency is over, COVID's no longer a big deal. Oh, you only have to isolate for one day. Maybe they don't know that the CDC is a political organization and not a scientific organization. Maybe they don't know that the CDC also said that HIV was no big deal and that they didn't need to do anything to prevent the spread, and they didn't need to issue any public health guidance in order to prevent widespread harm. Like, yeah, the same CDC now who is telling you that it's whatever if you catch COVID multiple times a year, also said that HIV was no big deal, right? So we don't know enough about COVID to feel confident that it's like no big deal. In fact, like there's tons of evidence that COVID causes brain damage, and COVID causes heart attacks and strokes, and COVID causes MECFS. If you are familiar with Physics Girl, Diana, on YouTube, she is actually about to, as of this stream, she is about to do an all-day live stream showing like a day in the life of someone with long COVID MECFS, where she just doesn't get out of bed all day, basically. Her partner makes her food, brings it to her. The lights are off most of the day. She can't even she's not even on her phone all day in bed. She's just laying there all day because that's what long COVID can do to you. Like, it can rob you of your life, which to me is more scary than the literal dying. So I wear a mask everywhere I go. And I recommend that you all wear masks and make sure your vaccinations are up to date. And, you know, there are certain nasal sprays with xylitol can help reduce your virality, and mouth washes with CPC in them can reduce your virality. Like, there are things that you can do and you can still live your life. You can still go see people. You can, I would say, don't eat at restaurants. And like, I would probably personally still avoid going to like big indoor events like concerts, but I do the Renaissance Festival every year. That's like a pretty big event. And I go out and I take my precautions, and I have not gotten severely sick. I might have gotten minorly sick last year, but I don't get majorly sick, right? You can still live your life if you wear a mask. I wear a mask at the gym. I wear a mask at the grocery store, like a full-on N95. And I think that that is a completely appropriate level of precaution, given everything I know about this disease, given the fact that I already have health issues that have me doing this as my full-time job instead of working out in the world as like a normal job. I have limitations, right? And I think, like many of you, I can't afford to work any less than I do. So I would say for you, you should wear a mask. You should protect yourself, because the public health messaging on this is not going great. Like, not going great. They've left it up to us to protect ourselves. Except there are places that are now trying to ban masks in public. Banning masks in public. The mayor of LA, who I think that she has now just recently tested positive for COVID, like more recently than this tweet that I'm looking at. The LA mayor wants to ban masks at protests specifically. And this person listed some things that you can do, some people that you can get in touch with to prevent that from happening. This really started in North Carolina. That was the first proposed ban. There's also been one proposed in New York. There was a health exception ban. So it started off saying, it shall be unlawful for any person or persons involved in a lawful assembly, unlawful assembly, or riot. So, you know, any person at a protest to wear a hood, mask, or device whereby the person or person's face is disguised so as to conceal the identity of the wearer. This section shall not apply to any person or persons wearing personal protective equipment for the purpose of ensuring the physical health or safety of the wearer or others, only during a declared public health emergency. So if you want, in New York, under this proposed act, if you want to go to a protest and protect yourself from COVID or flu or anything else going around, you are only legally allowed to do so during a declared public health emergency. So that's the government deciding when and where you're allowed to wear a mask. I think this is a pretty clear-cut First Amendment violation. You know, there was a case back during the Vietnam War regarding like these armbands with the peace sign or whatever on them, and like whether schools had the right to prevent students from wearing those. And it was like, no, like the Supreme, I'm pretty sure it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they determined no, this is like the right to freedom of speech includes like the freedom of expression, and freedom of expression is protected under the First Amendment. Like number one amendment, the number one rule that's tacked onto the Constitution is you have to allow people to express themselves. So I think wearing a mask in public, like if you were just walking by the protest, you're like, I'm not participating in the protest, I'm just trying to get off the subway, but you're wearing your mask, would that be an issue? There was also a proposed ban on masking in the subway. That was something I was seeing. Like, people were pretty upset that, I guess for allegedly crime-related reasons, there was a proposal to just ban masks on the subway in New York as well, even unrelated to a protest. Hi, I'm Alexander, and this is Mitternacht. You should hit the like button and subscribe and check out the Patreon. And ooh, look at this hoodie I'm wearing. It's merch. Check it out. Links in the description. Thank you. I have a Forbes article open. So yeah, there are some jurisdictions that are doing a 180 on this public health policy, where previously there were mandates that you must wear a mask, and now they're reversing that. Advocates for bans say that face coverings make it impossible for law enforcement to identify people who break the law. I mean, they do a terrible job anyway. How often do the police go accost a black dude because they cannot tell black people apart? You know, like, do you really think the masks are going to make their jobs harder? But also anything that makes police jobs harder, I'm like not going to complain about. The movement to ban masks began in North Carolina, where the state Senate voted along party lines back in May in favor of a proposal to prohibit wearing masks in public. The bill repealed an exception to old anti-mask laws that was enacted during the early phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, allowing people to wear masks in public for, quote, health and safety reasons. Supporters of the ban, Republican supporters of the ban, said that it's going to help law enforcement, quote, crack down on pro-Palestine protesters who wear masks. So, okay, like, keeping in mind that this is not just about COVID and, like, you know, the spread of COVID, but it is also, like, this kind of racist and, like, anti-progressive cracking down on pro-Palestine protesters. Because we did cover a while back, we did a video about how there were some people who were being charged with like a felony for wearing a mask while doing something else that was illegal or something, out of like being accused of doing something illegal at a protest, because like that can up the charges in some places. Like if you, it's kind of like how if you commit a murder while you are committing a robbery, that increases the murder charge, basically. And so in this case, it was like, yeah, if you commit some kind of crime, like if you're stealing and you're also wearing a mask, then that increases the crime. It like increases the punishment. Yeah, at least they didn't say pro-Hamas this time. They are accusing demonstrators of, quote, abusing COVID-19 pandemic era practices to hide their identities. Like, okay, cool. Actions to forbid masks are also being considered in other jurisdictions, which had previously implemented mask mandates during COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York said she's considering banning face masks throughout New York City's public transit system over concerns that the coverings obscure the identities of people committing anti-Semitic acts. So again, leveraging this whole everybody has to be pro-Israel crap. In Chicago, Alderman Raymond Lopez introduced an ordinance for, quote, enhanced penalties for concealing or attempting to conceal identity, namely by people who wear, quote, full face masks while committing crimes. And N95 only covers this part of your face. Is that considered a full face mask? I don't know. Are you allowed, instead of a full face mask, if you just wear one of these, you'll wear like a little Batman mask? That's acceptable? Yeah, we're not anti-health, we're just pro-genocide. And you aren't allowed to be anti-genocide. On the bright side, I'm sure the KKK is seething. I mean, the thing is that it's one of those deals where a person who is in the KKK is buddies with the police. Like, things that are illegal are only illegal for certain groups, actually. And things that are legal are only legal for certain groups, actually. It's like concealed carry or even open carry is only functionally legal for white people. And like not using your turn signal is illegal, but functionally only illegal for black folks and other people of color, right? Like a white person cannot use their turn signal and it doesn't matter. Like if we increase the punishment, then like it's not going to mean that those white people who are inconsiderate drivers, like they're not going to get punished any more often. Yeah, walking is fine, but walking while black, sus. You ever wonder why you basically never see a black person jogging? Have you ever thought about that? You see white people jogging all the time. You never see black people jogging. And on the rare occasions when they do, and I have seen stories of a black dude saying like, I was jogging for exercise reasons and I was very clearly wearing athletic clothing, like the tight-fitting athletic clothing. I had my water bottle with me and everything. Had my sweatband on. I don't actually know. I'm like editorializing at this point, but like had a sweatband on his head and everything and like getting stopped by a police officer. Jogging while black. Not legal. And true, yeah, meanwhile, cops themselves will wear masks and block their badge numbers while doing violence on protesters and killing innocent people in no-knock warrants. Yeah, I feel like it should be illegal for them to cover their badge number. Yes, I remember that. There was a nationally famous case where 2 white dudes killed a black dude who was out jogging. And I don't even think that those guys got punished or like that there was some question about whether they were going to get adequately punished. Ahmaud Arbery, yes, thank you for including that name there. Yeah, Ahmaud Arbery, just a black dude exercising for his health, was like basically lynched, I think is the term that you would use. Just shot, I think, killed in public. So North Carolina's anti-mask policy has actually passed into law. After the governor vetoed a revised version of the anti-mask bill, the legislation was ratified late last month after Republican lawmakers successfully overrode the governor's veto. They have enough Republicans in North Carolina to override the veto. The reworked version of the bill made it clear that increases in punishments would be imposed on people wearing masks, quote, while committing a crime, not merely doing so for a health reason. So, like, according to the letter of the law, you are allowed to wear a mask so long as you are not committing a different crime. But obviously, Democrats in North Carolina are not convinced by that. There are still concerns that police could interpret the law as justification for searching or apprehending people who are simply wearing a mask. Right. Like if you have a small amount of cannabis on your person and you're just walking around like normal and you're wearing a mask, if the cops decide to frisk you because you're wearing a mask, like, oh, look at that, they found contraband. Now you're going to get some trumped up increased charge for wearing a mask while committing a different crime. Okay, the dudes who killed Ahmaud Arbery were convicted. Yeah, that's good. I was not sure what the punishments were. Obviously, opponents of these mask bans assert that these bans pose a danger to public health. When the North Carolina Senate first introduced the proposal to restrict usage of masks in public, experts raised specific concerns about the bill's impact on the immunocompromised or those who may want to continue wearing masks during cancer treatments. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get COVID just because, like, of the regular up things that it can do to otherwise healthy people. You hear stories of people who are like, oh yeah, I used to run marathons and now I can barely walk up my stairs. Like, you know, it happens to loads of people. But yeah, there are people who are like sick with an immunocompromised situation, like who had an organ transplant 5 years ago and they take immune suppressant drugs, and people who have cancer. And it's like, if they get sick while they're doing cancer treatment, that illness could kill them, you know? Yeah, opponents of these bans, you mean sane people? Come on. Jerome Adams, former Surgeon General during the Trump administration, chimed in when he posted on Twitter saying, quote, "It's disturbing to think immunocompromised and cancer patients could be deemed criminals for following medical advice aimed at safeguarding their health." See, even a Trump guy is chiming in and saying, like, look, this is not good. Yeah, or you could live with someone who is immune compromised or going through cancer treatment and you don't want to harm them by bringing something home. I guess, like, I can't wear a mask in public, and so then I have to wear a mask the entire time I'm at home in order to not kill my wife who has cancer or whatever the situation is. Like, oh my God. Yeah, okay, this brings up some really great points. There are legitimate health reasons for wearing medical masks, including asthma, exposure to wildfire, smoke, and exhaust. Like, pollution is a reason why people wear masks. also individuals want to protect themselves from pathogens like COVID-19 and influenza. The CDC states that wearing a high-quality mask, KN95 or N95, can help lower the risk of respiratory virus transmission. Yeah, it for sure can. Yeah, we've seen studies proving that. A comprehensive study released in May suggests that if properly and consistently worn, masks are effective at reducing community transmission of respiratory pathogens. Wow, amazing. And obviously, COVID-19 spikes every summer, so it's spiking again this summer, which accentuates the contentious nature of the proposed bans. Governor Hochul in New York says that any future ban in New York would still allow people to use masks for medical reasons, except that we already looked at it and it said only when there's a declared public health emergency. Of course, there is ambiguity in the exceptions. Presumably a demonstration or protest in itself isn't a criminal act with or without a mask. But yeah, so let me see. I don't think there's anything else in here. In the case of the North Carolina law, the American Civil Liberties Union argues that the law is specifically being used to target those who wear face coverings while protesting the conflict between Israel and Hamas, which, yeah, that is obvious, which in the ACLU's view amounts to, quote, selective prosecution of a disfavored movement. Agreed. It's also worth pointing out that banning masks has nothing to do with preventing crime, according to Dr. Lucky Tran, saying Japan has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, and everyone there wears a mask regularly. Yeah, I mean, in Japan, there's a high amount of pollution, and they just have like a very basic level of politeness regarding not spreading illness to people, you know? Like there's this concept that you belong to a community and you should protect people from getting sick. But the crime rates, like, you know, again, they have one of the lowest crime rates in the world. So it has nothing to do with preventing crime. TLDR, some states just want another reason to throw more people in jail. True enough, that we had discussed earlier today on a different video on the channel, the criminalizing homelessness thing. You know, labor in prisons is very cheap because like slavery is legal as punishment for a crime here in the United States. That's what the thing says. That's what the amendment says. Slavery is illegal except as punishment for a crime. So yeah, the more people you can throw in jail, the more labor you have. And who cares if they get COVID? Like, who cares? Yeah. In Asian countries, it's considered polite to wear a mask when you're sick to prevent spreading sickness. And here in the US, we're so anti-health that we literally ban doing stuff that helps other people around us. Next, it'll be illegal to help an old person cross the street. Yeah, it'll be assault or something. Right, even medieval peasants knew the value of wearing a mask. I remember seeing a picture from back in like the Spanish influenza age where like this whole family took pictures wearing masks, including their cat. They put a little mask on their cat. No masks allowed combined with the gutting of the EPA is kind of an interesting cocktail. Right, yeah, with the striking down of the Chevron rule from the Supreme Court. It's going to be interesting. This is another one of those things where, you know, we've already discussed it. If they keep making basic common sense things illegal, then like if they made it illegal to wear masks in Kansas, guess what? I'm going to be breaking the law every time I leave my house because I wear a mask every time I go to the gym. I wear a mask every time I go to the grocery store. Like every time I have to go inside anywhere, Walmart, like anytime I go anywhere, even outdoors, sometimes I'll wear a mask. Like I went to Pride and it was outdoors and I wore a mask the entire time because there's too many people. Yeah, they've already made it illegal to do things that help people in the sense that it's illegal to feed the homeless. If you set up a table and feed the homeless and you're not officially associated with a nonprofit organization, yeah, it's illegal. They'll shut you down. They'll make you go home. They'll cite you. So it's crazy how much, like, not only do we have a culture that incentivizes, you know, like not caring for the most vulnerable, like not only do we as individuals seem to have a, like, no moral problem with knowing that we're COVID positive and going to the airport to get on an airplane where you're stuck in a sardine can with 100 other people and like getting them all sick with your COVID. Like we have this individual problem of lack of accountability. But also on top of that, the government is in some cases mandating that we do things that are worse for public health. So I guess the main thing that you can do is like contact the representatives if you're in one of these places and hope that they actually listen. But like these things are going down party lines. And if you live in a Republican state, they can override the veto even if you have a Democratic governor. So, yeah, it's not looking too good. It's not looking great. Last month was Pride. Now it's time for Wrath. Thank you so much to my patrons, including Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Jack, Amanda B., Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Pasnell Infinity, Suzanne Maynard, Sojo, Jamie Jam, Dizzy Quiche, Jericho, Kevin Young, Liam Hodgson, Athiet, Elavie Nobody, Mr. Atheist, Elizabeth Bartell, Celeste, Nova, and Michelle Frattaroli.